Hello again, everyone. Part 2 of our easiest to hardest tier list. And this is going to be the range specs. So, buckle in, and if you have any questions, as always, put them below. Let me know what you're going to think of the video. Let me know if you change any positions. And we're going to kick this off and right into it with... We are going to start with the Arcane Mage. Now, again, because, like I said, last time we were here, it really depends on the season and the, I guess, basically expansion. Because if this was previous expansion, it would go all the way over here as the hardest spec to play. Now, this is not the previous season, and there is a bit of nuances, but there's not a lot of nuances. Well, not as much. I won't say not a lot. It is still, it's still one of the harder specs to play in the game, but it is not where it was. If that makes sense. I hope it does. It has gotten easier. They've gotten rid of a bunch of it, so it has gotten slightly easier to play. It is still more difficult than some of the other specs on the list, but it is not as hard as what it used to be. It also has a great set of mage utility, so keep that in mind. Mages do bring quite a bit to the table. Not as much as shamans, but still quite a bit. Frost. Frost Mage. It is not that bad. We need some differentiate. We need some space between this spec and some of the other specs that are going to go up. We are going to put it in not bad. If you are not close enough and don't hit your 3 targets to reset your cooldowns, it sucks. But other than that, the spec is pretty straightforward. You know, need some procs. You need your chill procs and your fingers, and then your orbs, blizzard. You know, all the fun stuff. And depending on the build you play, if you play Ice Lance or the other one, it's still not bad. It's not one of the overly complex ones. It has some decent buttons, but we're gonna put it not bad. Elemental Shaman. This is a tough one because 11.1 is gonna change this. 11.1 is gonna go to mid. Because you are basically changing the way it's played. Now you don't do what you're gonna do. We're gonna build this for, I guess, 11.1. Coming up, and it is going to be, we're going to put it in mid. We're going to put it at the far end of mid, but we're going to put it in mid because in the next one, you are going to be casting a lot more chain lightnings for damage. So it's going to go there. You do have Shaman utility, which again is insane amount of buttons just for utility, but it's got a decent amount of rotational buttons, and you have to get procs and get ready for big damage and all that fun stuff. And the 3-minute cooldown window that you're playing right now as Ascendance is very button intensive because you don't want to mess that window up because it's once every 3 minutes. So it's gonna go mid. That's why it's in mid. It's not going harder because of the next iteration of it. It's gonna be a lot more chain lightnings, and basically you're just gonna be losing some buttons. Primordial Wave you're not gonna play anymore, so it's gonna go mid. What do we have? Shadow Priest. Oh, Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest. How do I put this? If you miss your Shadow Priest applying dots, which I played Shadow Priest, I think it was the last season of Dragonflight. I was playing a lot of Shadow Priest, and it randomly, I would have it set up, and my Shadow Cross would just not hit the targets in the area. And I don't know why it did it, and I never could figure it out. I don't know if it was a Blizzard glitch or something, but if it, like, just randomly misses, your damage is fucked. So, for that reason, it's not going to go in not bad. It's going to go in mid. It's going to go less than Shaman. Because if you do have your Shadow Crash, it's not overly that complex of a spec anymore. But it's like it used to be harder. But again, they brought it down a bit, which was a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. But yeah, if for some reason, if it glitches out or your Shadow Crash fucks up, your damage is amped and you will be in trouble. So it's hard to make sure that lands all the time because of I have no idea what goes on with Blizzard. And then if it does, then you have to manually dot everything, and that kind of makes it a little harder to dot all the specs. So we're just going to put it in mid. It is going to go on the lower end of mid, but it's going mid for now. Destro Lock is probably one of the easiest specs to play. There's not a lot to it. It's a fairly simplistic spec. You know, he build, spend. It's like Demo, but Demo has a little more nuances to it, and I'll get into that when Demo comes up. Yeah, Rain of Fire, like they used to be just a degenerate spec where you would literally just Rain of Fire, Rain of Fire, Rain of Fire. Oh, I need to build something. Rain of Fire, Rain of Fire, Rain of Fire. Like it used to be pretty degenerate. Now it's gotten a little harder, but it's nothing crazy. We're just gonna put it in easiest and move on, to be honest. Boomkins. What can I say about them? Well, they moved up to pretty much S tier this season because if you don't know this about Boomkins cry until they do like S tier damage. And it happens every season. It happens all the time. They whine, they complain, they boo-hoo that we're not doing enough damage. And I guess the squeaky wheel gets the oil because they're always up there. Or at least they have been for a long time now. And I'm sure there's going to be Boomkins that cry in the comments below because that's what Boomkins do. But, that being said, if this was, again, previous, it would be down here. But, they made Boomkin pretty easy now. You have one Eclipse to go into. You Starfire all the time. You basically Moonfire. You have Twin Fire on, so you Moonfire, it gets on 2 people. Sunfire, and then just Starfire and Starfall. You get 2 Incarns, you don't really have to plan that much your rotation. You still do, but not that much. Fear of Elune gets a short CD, so you just send that. It's one of the easier ones. I would say it's less than Frost, harder than Destro. Demo Lock. Demo Lock is... Demo Lock, if you're tracking it, is... Again, they've dumbed down this spec too. There used to be I forget what it was called, but I want to call it like the Portal one. That was very, very button tough, very heavy rotation. Now, as long as you're tracking a few things, it's not overly hard. You want to know when to send your imps. You want to know when to bring out your tyrant to extend your other hounds and everything. There's a few things to track. Oh, it can either go not bad or mid. I'm not entirely sure which is the best spot for it. If you're tracking it and you're tracking everything well, it's not bad. If you're not tracking it, it can definitely get to mid, or you're not tracking it well. Sending your... Yeah, because you do have to know when to send your imps, but then your button rotation isn't that heavy, especially once you get into the Demon Bolt stuff where they're instant casts. Oh, it is a tough spec to see here. You know what? For sake of spacing it out, well, I don't know. If they bring back the Doombrand one, it's going to go mid, because tracking your Doombrand was always a little hard. We're going to go mid, just in case. We're going to settle it up, just in case. Not that bad, but we're going to put it just above not that bad to mid. Just because Doombrand, it brings another nuance to it, and that's a couple things you got to track. So we'll get some space in here, and we'll put it in mid. Marksman Hunter. Marksman Hunter, it's not overly hard. You do get to move a bunch. You do have to aim shot. No, it got a little easier than what it used to. Like your B. We're going to put it less than Frost. Less than Frost. It doesn't have, like, you do have to plan a little bit for your cooldown, but it's not that bad. You get to move on almost all your abilities except, like, 2, I think. If I remember how many we can move on. It's a pretty fun spec to play, though. And there's a lot of stuff going on in 11.1 where they took away your pet, but now they're bringing back your pet for an option. So people complain pretty quick at that. that it's not a hunter without a pet. So they not a lot like the marksmen. There was no build where I was playing that I had a pet as a marksman. Really, you just brought it out if you needed a lust and then sent it away, like dismissed it. So anyway, that's what I was playing. But some people wanted it, so that's fine. It's not a bad thing to have options. But it's not, again, back to the spec. It brings hunter utility. It's not crazy for button bloat. It's pretty straightforward. We're gonna put it not bad. Affliction lock. Affliction lock. Oh, where to put affliction lock? Put affliction lock. Affliction lock, you have to. Got a little harder with managing dots, but it's not overly hard. Again, it runs into the same thing as Shadow. If you don't have your Vile Taint up, it really runs into issues on the pulls. A lot of dots to apply, and then you just then you just you into your rapture window. So we're gonna put it slightly ahead of Shadow Priest, just because there's a lot of dots to maintain, and it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, we're just gonna put it above Shadow Priest. It's got some lock things you can do with the lock gate. Whether it's all necessary, no, but slightly harder, I think, because you do have quite a few more buttons than Shadow Priest on your rotation. Not a terrible spec, but not the easiest spec by any means. It's just right middle of the pack. It's definitely not in harder. It's definitely harder than Marksman and Frost. So, yep, that's a good spot for it. Old BM Hunter. Yeert. Right there. Easiest spec in the range. It's definitely a fun spec to play. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with easy specs, like I said in the first video. But it just isn't that hard of a spec to play. You have Barb Shot, you have Bestial Wrath, you Kill Command, like it's you basically just track your Beast Cleave. Pretty easy spec. You get to move the whole time you're playing, which is amazing. You never have to worry about standing and stuff, or you should never get hit by standing and stuff, because there's not an ability you have to cast where you have to stand still, and that was the whole, I guess, game style behind it. So it is the easiest spec to play for range, and it is one of the more fun specs to play too. Just moving around and jumping around the whole time is a good time. And again, you bring Hunter utility, which is not bad. It's not overly button bloated. Doesn't have terrible amounts, but it doesn't have like the least amount either. It's just kind of mid on the utility, but definitely fun and easy spec to play. Oh, good old Aug Evoker. Fuck, I can't wait till they nerf this thing, but they haven't yet enough. And in Season 2 right now, they made it so you almost have 100% Evan Might uptime. So, that's just fantastic. I'm sick and tired of seeing Aug Evokers. Even though I play an Aug Evoker, but I would just like to drop it off my list for a few seasons and not think about it. It's not a hard spec to play. A lot of people don't play it very well. Um, there's some nuances to it, but it's not crazy. Like, you just want to make sure you always have blistering scales on, usually your tank. The new prescience, your DPS, you make sure they have it. And if you have enough time to get one more out before your DPS is going to need it again, you can just send it on whoever's going to do most damage at the time. Usually it's a tank that's doing more damage, or yourself, dependent. But it's not overly complex. It's not. Oh, where do I put this? I'm gonna put it less than Marksman, because you really only have a few buttons, and once you figure out that your Ebon Might, you can almost extend it 1.5 times right now, and then when you get the next tier set, which is, I fucking hope it gets nerfed, it will be almost 100% uptime, which is going to make it S tier again, which is a big issue, but that's for a later video. We'll put it below Marksman. It's not overly complex, just some nuances to keep it up. Some people usually end up messing it up because the long cast times, but it's not hard itself, it just has long cast times. Devastation Evoker. Devastation Evoker. it's not really hard. You have a couple spenders. You have nuance in your dragon window. It's harder in Destro, easier than Boomkin, I would say. But I don't know. Boomkin's pretty damn easy right now. Again, you don't have a very hard AoE rotation, especially when Pyre's a thing. Yeah, we're gonna put it. It's an easier spec to play. It's nothing really crazy. You just extend as long as you can, and then yeah. There's not much to say. You just extend it. Your disintegrates now can cleave up to, I think it's 3 targets total. It's just used to be a single target ability, but now it's like 3. And then when you get to plus, and then you pyre for the most part, and yeah, it's not overly complex. Again, you have the cast time of an evoker, which sucks for a lot of things, but you can clip your disintegrate still as long as it's under 1 bar, and your pyres are instant, and your azure strikes are instant. You do have to cast a few of your abilities, and just you can make it even simpler by always maxing your breath. And then when you living flame after, it will always send out the cleave up to 4 targets. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna put it there. We're gonna put it there. Move to old Fire Mage. Now, I had a tough time on this. Fire Mage is... Where do I put Fire Mage? Where do I put Fire Mage? Where do I put Fire Mage? You know what? We're going to adjust this. This is almost at the end of the video, and people are just going to fast forward to the end for the most part. So we're going to go and get some separation between Elemental Shaman, Affliction Lock, and Fire Mage. Is Fire Mage... The only question here is Fire Mage harder or less hard than Arcane? I've played more Fire than Arcane because I enjoy it better. Or I enjoy it more than Arcane. But is it harder is the question. It's faster paced for procs. This is more of a standard, like, you know what buttons you're going to be pressing. This is more of a, if it procs, you're pressing different buttons. More of a reactionary spec over a planned spec. So I guess that could make it a little harder itself. Outside of your combust windows, like, your damage is still, I think, way too low. But in your combust windows, it feels good. And then knowing which buttons to hit in your combust windows. Yeah, I don't know. It could go either way. So if you made it this far, it could literally go either way. We're going to put Fire here just for fun. But it's a harder spec on the tier to play. It's, definitely harder in Beastmaster because you do have to get your procs. You do have to do your damage in your procs. And you do have to stand still for a cast when you know your Sun Kings is up. And then there's a lot of nuances to it. We're going to put it as harder than the new Arcane. The new Arcane is a lot more planned out, a lot more barrage. So we'll put Fire here. And like I said before, anyone shits on this tier list in the comments, this is my perspective. Some of it does have to be, notice that it is what I do play a little more than others too. But that being said, I play more Fire than Arcane. I still find Fire can be tough. So let me know if you change anything. As always, leave a comment below, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.